I'm Richard Worsham, co-founder and designer here at Janus Motorcycles. Welcome to our headquarters.
So my friend Chris Smith, part of the Cleveland Moto Podcast, has owned a Janus Halcyon 250 for over 4 years. He has over 8,000 miles on the bike. Many of those miles I've been next to or behind him, or one of the guys from the podcast has ridden with him. We've all ridden his bike and got to experience it. So we have a pretty good grasp of what the Janus motorcycle ecosystem is all about. With the pile and barrage of videos from YammieNoob coming about the Janus motorcycle, he is clearly a person that does not understand the point of it. Now, his last couple of videos, the longer review of it, wasn't necessarily wrong, and I don't really have a problem with necessarily what he's feeling about the motorcycle, because motorcycles are subjective. I could like a bike that you could totally hate, so that's not really what I'm getting at. But I think that during his review, he alluded to a lot of things that made, if you were a casual viewer, think that maybe the Janus is a cheaper motorcycle or doesn't have quality parts. And from my experience with the bikes and the ones that I've seen and had my hands on, that's not the case at all. So instead of adding more of my opinion or anything to this, because one of the principles behind this channel was I always wanted to do things positive for the motorcycling community, not add drama or anything to it, we went right to the source. So we jumped in the car and we went to Goshen, Indiana, and we had a discussion with Richard, and he opened up about their whole manufacturing process, where they make the parts, how it is a big community of people right there creating these bikes, where they get the engines and everything. And they were very transparent about the whole Doodle situation, and he gives you some insight to that as well. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get into the history of Janus. He's gonna show us the whole thing, and then later on we sit down and we talk about the Doodle situation. So, hey, grab your favorite beverage. This is a pretty long one. There's a lot of information, and I think what you're gonna have is you're gonna come away with this with a much better understanding of Janus. And yes, they are a very niche motorcycle company, and they are completely aware of that. So just for YammieNoob, we highlighted the point of Janus in the middle of the video. All right, let's go to Goshen, Indiana. Let's check this place out, man.
Come on back. So
All right, let's do it.
This is our showroom right here. This is an old dry cleaner. We're right downtown Goshen. So the theater, record store, coffee shop, we're right in the heart of a Midwestern manufacturing town.
So are these for sale? Are these customers' bikes? Are these going out?
These are mostly demos. So
Okay.
these, if you're coming for a test ride, you can take one of these out.
Wow, okay, awesome.
Always have a couple stock for sale.
And some for sale. Yeah.
All right, cool.
And basically, as we walk back, we walk back through the process of the bikes get less and less complete as the raw components come in the back.
Because they are made here.
They're all made right here.
Right, amazing.
So up here we have some bikes in for service or trade, and then the majority of the bikes you see here are sold and waiting for either final certification or being on delivery.
Okay.
This is where we got started. Janus Motorcycles started off just in this one bay as a much smaller manufacturer, manufacturing 50cc two-strokes. And so we had a loft, business on the loft, production on the floor.
Wow.
But now this is kind of the heartbeat of the shop. We've got these awesome old skylights in this old manufacturing building, 4 build stands. So we mostly do 250s on these 2 first ones and 450s down on the other stands. You're surrounded by all the parts many of the smaller parts that go on the bikes. This is a bike that's completely, assembled.
That's what I see.
Here with parts that are mostly coming from, not just from the States, but from within about 20 miles of our shop.
Wow. So the frames, you have a frame like a guy that's welding and jig welding all your frames just right here?
Yeah, we do. We manufacture internally at our fabrication shop about 5 minutes south all the 450 chassis. And then all the 250 chassis are manufactured by the partner fabrication shop we've been working with since we got started in 2011.
What about the tins, gas tanks, and all that stuff?
All that stuff is manufactured here in Elkhart County as well. Aluminum fuel tanks. We actually make all our fenders ourselves down at our fabrication shop. Air boxes, oil tanks, all made here.
Wow. And then they're hand assembled too.
And then all assembled right here. Really though, one of the points I make is that we are a production motorcycle company. These are not custom. Nobody's taking an angle grinder and chopping bits off of another bike. Every chassis has been through a long design process. Of course, at this point updated over a decade. And really the personalization that we offer is in the finish options or finishes, paint, different kinds of polish or brushed or powder coated, and leather options, upgrades that you can add to the bike.
I come from the guitar world too, so it's almost like a boutique guitar. Like,
yeah.
Like you have the base model, but what do you want done to it? Okay.
Exactly.
And so we'll get into this more later when we sit down and talk, but when you say certified, so like, these aren't just thrown together. You had to go through a long process to be able to get them on the road legally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that process involves a lot of red tape. Some of that has to do with highway safety. Some of it has to do with just basic regulations on lighting, tires, brake systems, electronics, other aspects of the kind of red tape that we have to go through that are really the most onerous would be emissions certification.
Oh, sure. Well, all the big manufacturers are feeling that. Everybody's feeling that with the Euro 5 and stuff.
Now, there
like
are some benefits to being a small manufacturer where you can limit the duration of the testing you have to do. But for the most part, we have to obey the same rules that Harley Davidson does.
Right.
Same standards.
And that's amazing. And so, like, basically, just by pure facts, you guys are probably the most American motorcycle company in the United States right now.
Could be argued, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially we've been learning a lot more about supply chain. We have a new supply chain director. Came on board last year. Used to work for Buell for the entire run of Buell, then many other motorcycle manufacturers, and just learning where Harley gets all their parts from. There's coming from all over the world, and some of them more than others.
Right.
Our take on it is that we like making things as close to home as we can. And our philosophy is, rather than just throwing in the towel and having the whole thing made overseas, how much can we make here? And it's amazing how much we do, and we take that as a win. The more that we can bring in-house or vertically integrate, the better we are. But really feel like it's better to be able to make as much as we can here, rather than it seems like it's pretty common today, is just farm it out overseas.
So what else you got? You got the assembly part back there then, huh?
Yeah, we'll keep going back. So this is final assembly here. So a bike will go on, starts as a frame, and then literally basically everything up to the exhaust goes on. Our 250 line is carbureted, probably the last carbureted, I don't know if it's the actual last, but one of the last carbureted highway motorcycles. And then our fuel injected line, different kinds of certification for each of those. Of course, the fuel injected gets flashed. All of them go through then go on a rolling road and get another level of certification. So during the process of building these 4 different certifications with 4 different people, and those are certifications that are based on over a decade of experience figuring out what is priority, what is critical, to make sure that we're guaranteeing is up to our standard.
Right.
Well, then we work our way a little back further, pre-assemblies or sub-assemblies. So there's a lot of work that goes into prepping different components. Each one of those is a WIP part, work in progress. So there's specific inspection, certification processes for all those components before they even go on the bike. A whole team that's their job, is to make sure that these parts are ready so that we can build a bike in an efficient and timely manner when it gets to final assembly. So you can, there's just a myriad, hundreds and hundreds of parts go into each motorcycle. And each one of those parts has to meet our standards and be here on time and meet our schedule. So actually make all of our carburetor internals. So this is a jet needle. It's got the part number and the revision of the design file on there. This has like 19 different tapers. This is made by a machinist that makes, his main business is the orthopedic industry, so parts that go in you and the tools that get in you. And that'd be a needle, this would be an emulsion tube or a atomizer. These all have to meet EPA specs, so there's no room for, these are high precision parts.
Right, that's crazy. See, I would have never thought all that was made here.
Yeah, those are made literally 10 minutes south of here.
Wow.
Yeah, this is where all of the paint work is done. So all of our tins and chassis are all powder. You use powder coat but all the graphics on a Janus are hand pinstriped.
Wow.
So that would be, let's take a look at a good tank here. One that's, or maybe an airbox will be good. Here's a good color. So this is an airbox, connects to your carburetor, and these are all hand pinstriped with the model name of this. This is a Halcyon 250. So this is our most popular model. We have 1,200 or so of these on the road over the last 10 years. This is the 10th anniversary of the Halcyon 250.
Wow.
This is number 1,253.
Oh wow! You guys actually number them like that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, almost all the bikes have a number plate, or pedestrian slicer, we call it, on the front.
Yeah.
And that typically, in most cases, is the serial number, because we are such small production volume that people take a lot of pride in not how high their number is often, but how low their number is.
Yeah. That makes sense, man.
But yeah, so all the paint gets done over here. We're talking traditional sign painters, one-shot paint. This is a squirrel hair pinstriping brush, and tanks, airboxes, fenders, all those things, including wheels. This is set up for doing a wheel pinstripe as well. So that would be a little pinstripe line inside the wheel.
Right on.
This is recently launched skirted fenders. So this really kind of goes back to some really early designs.
And you're making those all in-house?
So these start off as a piece of steel.
Wow.
Sheet steel that we then have a process for forming into a complete fender. Each one of these skirts, one of these takes many, many hours to make. But of course it's really fun because since it is 3 separate pieces, all hand fit, you can do different colors. These just really take the Halcyon to a new level. This
so
is
each piece is still powder coated then too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, wow.
And then hand pinstriped afterwards.
Get a nice shot of that. Oh yeah, that is nice.
And you can kind of see just like the level of how these fit together. The bead going around the edge, all done by hand.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, that is like, there is no gap. That's nice. So how does the decision, like what is that process like when you guys decide to do something completely new to your process?
Well, in this case, most of the time with things like figuring out how to make a fuel tank, we trial and error, looking at how it's been done in the past. And sometimes we laugh that we're reinventing the wheel. But other cases, like we bring in folks that have had experience doing this. And that's really even down to our chassis and our, like I say, back to the fuel tank, breather tubes. How is this, we'll bring in somebody who knows how this is done. In the case of the fenders, we located really one of the few people that makes handmade fenders here in the States that are actually not just stamped on a giant machine. Guy's name's Joe Cooper, real famous chopper fender guy, and we had him come in and train us. We basically licensed his process that he developed. He created it from scratch.
Wow.
And he came in for a week, trained us in how to do that, and set us up with we had to buy a bunch of equipment. We bought a Swedish Pullmax. We actually ended up getting it from Sweden. It's this giant, it's basically like a giant English wheel, powered English wheel. So it's a reciprocating machine. It moves really fast, very small amount, and you can put different dies in it, and that helps you form, stretch, and compress steel, or aluminum, or whatever.
I had no idea that you guys were hand forming the fenders. That's crazy.
Yeah, we got to really check out our YouTube channel. We got a video on the whole process of making a fender. Wow, all right, I definitely will. That's something I didn't know. Chris never mentioned that. And it allows us to make different versions. So you got like standard 450 fender, ducktail 450 fender, skirted fender. There's many, many different options that you can
yeah, I see that.
Go on each bike.
That's cool.
This is the ducktail on this guy.
So does that allow you to not have to have super piles of inventory because you can make them as needed?
We're making them for each bike.
Oh, that's great.
Here's the skirted. This bike is still going together.
Oh yeah. Let me take a look at this guy. Oh yeah, that definitely adds a whole nother level to it.
So the 450 line, when we launched that, one of our goals was to bring chassis fabrication in-house. So all the there are 4 chassis components that go into a 450: the fork vertical, fork horizontal, the main frame, the most complex part, and then you have your rear swing arm, or what we call transom. All these are designed by us and produced by us in our own shop. So that's everything. These come in as a piece of tube, laser cut, and then we will do the bending, put it in our own production tooling, and then weld it up. Then it goes through its own inspection processes, certification, before it even goes out to powder coat.
Wow.
And then goes through more inspections throughout the assembly process.
So what's the design process like? Like when you decided to come up with the 450, so like for, you know, somebody, because you have to get it to pass all the NHTSA stuff, all the highway stuff, right, to get it legal. So like when you start the design processes, do you go to something that already exists and then modify it for your liking? Are you starting from scratch? Like with the leading link front suspension, some people don't understand it, you know,
Yep.
etc. I've ridden many bikes that have it. They ride differently.
Yep.
So like, what was your thinking? Was it more aesthetically at first, obviously, or something, just to kind of stick with the period?
Well, I mean, I always make the point that we're not trying to emulate any period. I'm trying to make a modern motorcycle that captures aspects of riding that we've lost with the modern motorcycle, which there's nothing wrong with the modern motorcycle. They're fantastic. They've reached incredible levels of engineering and technology. However, the trend has been to focus on features at the expense of experience, and I think that really probably not knocking the turn of the century, but like the Hayabusa is a classic example of a motorcycle that, like, what can we do next? Mm-hmm. Like, let's just make it go over 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, because we can't.
Great bike, but we're at that point. We're running out of things to talk about to get people excited about buying this bike,
right.
Because we've gotten into this arms race over features. So what we're trying to do is something completely different.
Right.
We're throwing that rule book out the window, basically, and saying we're going to get back to these simple machines that give you this that heighten the experience and the feeling of riding,
right.
as opposed to worrying about making this as comfortable or as efficient or as high tech or as feature laden. Like that's in all of our literature. That's what we make it very clear is these motorcycles are not for everyone.
Right.
They're for people that are interested in a very distilled experience that is all about the process. It's about the process. It's about the ride. It's about preparing for the ride. It's even about maintaining your motorcycle. I think we're the only manufacturer that supports and encourages owner maintenance.
Right.
So that we have our YouTube, most of our YouTube library is how-to videos on doing oil changes or valve adjustments, etc.
Right. For both bikes, you kind of address the fact that these frames are built here. They're not some just thrown together Chinese crap. These are hand-built frames, meticulously. So then the components that you're strapping on there, one of the things that came up was like the shocks are squeaky or whatever in that video. But these are not eBay special shocks. These are real shocks.
Oh yes, so these are Icon suspension. So we have been working with Icon since we launched the 250 line. Icon, if you mix those letters around, is Koni. If you're familiar with suspension with that name, Icon split off the motorcycle division of Koni back in the 60s. They're based in Australia, and they make the top of the line traditional coil-over shocks like you would have found on any vintage bike back in the day. So these are very high quality. These are not eBay shocks, and that is true of all of our components.
Right.
We look for the best component we can get that fits the use case. So if this was a different bike, maybe we would go with Öhlins or upside down forks.
Right.
But this is the best use case for what we're doing with the Janus motorcycle.
So that forward link suspension that you guys have, is this your own design? Are you using a calculated kind of thing, or what is it?
Yeah, so we can, I didn't really answer your question on design of the chassis. So we've written extensively about this and done some videos as well, but we we figured when we launched the 250 line, actually with the 50, we started with variations on the Norton Featherbed. The Norton Featherbed, I think Kevin Cameron claims that it is the single greatest advance in motorcycle technology in the 20th century.
I've heard that.
You can disagree or agree with that, but it was a huge technological advancement right around the 1950s. And motorcycle chassis to this day still use concepts from that. So we basically have the idea is instead of having like an old-fashioned Harley rigid, diamond style, very planar fret chassis, you have these double cradles, and it's just a very robust, strong design. There are, the modern sport bike with the double spar is actually a more rigid system, because the goal is with any chassis is you want to have your steering head and your rear swing arm pivot, the connection between those two things as rigid as possible. That is the goal of a frame. That's what chassis do. Now they also hold like the seat and the tank and the electrical system and all that, the engine. Sometimes though, the engine is the frame.
Right.
You have a stress member.
Yep.
The goal is to keep those as rigid as possible. So this chassis is a chassis that accomplishes that. And really this is just, it looks more like a Norton Featherbed than maybe some other frames, especially the 250. But this is just like any other. This is like, if you go take a look at a Honda XR400, that's where this down tube comes from. Almost identical. There's countless modern chassis out there that are very, very similar to this. So really, our leading link would be more of a departure from standard suspension, or on the 450, our Vincent style transom rear end is a little more different than what you're used to. But the main frame is basically we chose a tried and true design and then adapted that using, finite element analysis, design, testing, multiple iterations to come up with a system that really works well for both our product, finished product, and our production process here.
So did you do modeling then? Were you able to run it through computer models and stuff?
Yes, we did extensive testing of using finite element analysis, which is basically a way to simulate what the dynamic effects of fatigue and bending, all those things. You can analyze a frame. Now, that's one tool. The other tool would be trial and error and actual physical testing. But a combination of those two is pretty much typical of the motorcycle industry in terms of how you would go about doing that. Now, the difference would be that something like, we probably racked up, rough estimate would be somewhere around 3 million miles cumulatively on Halcyon 250s over the last 10 years with 1,200 customers. Honda probably puts 1 million test miles on a bike before they even launch it. So that's a difference. Like, that's something that as a small manufacturer, there's just no way you're going to do that.
Does it also allow you to make revisions? So like when you see a problem, so like now from when you started to where you are now, like where is the 250? How many revisions? Like not like little I changed this bolt, but like how many major revisions have been to it?
I think the way that I'll answer that is a little different than, because we're so different than the way other manufacturers do things. What they'll typically do is every year, or not every, on a yearly basis, you'll have something like a model year or an update, and they'll do everything from nothing at all to a complete overhaul. We don't do that. Instead, what we do is we're just gradually adjusting and improving. So the Halcyon 250 from 2016 and the Halcyon 250 from 2025 are going to be different, but it's gradual incremental changes based on our design team and just improvements that we want to make for or whether it's for engineering reasons, manufacturing reasons, or feedback from customers, feedback from our service department. If we have an issue, we are literally the first people to know, because unlike any other manufacturer, we don't have dealers. So if there's an issue, guess where people come?
Yeah,
they call us.
It's most responsible. Yeah, right.
So we know exactly what's going on with our bikes, and if there's an issue, which, like any manufacturer, we'll be open. We've had issues. It's an ongoing exercise in improvement, addressing something. You may get, the same batch of something, even if you've gone through all inspection processes, something gets through that this one's different. And that's true of Harley Davidson, Honda, anybody as well. So these are components that will be going on this 450 Halcyon. But let's just start over here. So this would be your steering stem lock nut. So this is also manufactured by a biomedical machine shop that does the highest level of precision
it does look
that we can do. This is a beautiful part. 2 of these locked together with a special tool on your steering stem. Also made the same shop. This would be the front axle. Check out the machining on this thing.
That's not a nut you can buy at Ace Hardware.
Nope. Extremely high precision part, made specifically for us. About, again, 10 minutes south of here. Then we have this is the front brake caliper and caliper plate. So we make the caliper ourselves. We even make, this is the speedometer sensor pickup. It's a hall sensor. We make this. But then this is a brake caliper. So you got parts coming from Italy. You've got Spiegler brake lines, which, if you know anything about brake lines, they're made over in Dayton. Incredible company, braided stainless steel. You got so that's coming from Ohio. We've done a podcast with Martin. Awesome. These are coming from Italy. Of course, Brembo. This would be a side stand. We make the entire thing right down to, I mean, look at the bolt on this guy. It's machine shoulder bolt. This is a machine component. This is all welded in our fabrication shop. And then you got our top plate. Well, here's a top nut. Again, machined specifically for us. Look at that.
That is beautiful.
These are all the parts that go into the specs. And these are parts that we don't talk about a lot. Like, these are throughout the motorcycle. This is the level of quality that we're shooting for.
None of this is half-assed, man. That's kind of my point. Like, this is not a sales pitch. I don't want this to be a sales pitch for Janus. But
I'm pitching this.
Yeah, well, that's your job. But my point is that, like, the idea that these bikes are thrown together, or that they're just some Chinese bike brought in, and that you guys didn't think about any of this stuff, and whatever, is just, it's not true.
Like this part right here is the steering. This is your top clamp on top of your forks. Really similar to what a telescopic fork would look like. This is a billet aluminum piece. This particular design is probably on its 10 through 12th rendition, going back over 10 years. So this has been, this is for a 450, but the design comes from all the testing we've done on our 250. So this is again, I say machined out of billet aluminum. The handlebar clamps are recessed, so you don't have to put a wrench on the bottom. They just go right in there. Your steering stem goes in here, instrument goes here. And then, of course, there's just many, many more parts. Here's the speedometer sensor. This is the rear brake pressure sensor, also from Spiegler.
Wow.
So just a great handful of components that kind of illustrate we're buying parts from Italy and New Paris, which is 10 minutes south of here, and our own fabrication shop making many of the parts. We get our engines in, the 250, all of our engines are manufactured in mainland China. We get our 250 from an incredible US distributor that we have been working with from the get-go. We went through many different versions of the CG 250. This is kind of the engine that powers the developing world. These are not high performance motors, 14 horsepower, but what they are motors that can take an incredible amount of abuse with very little maintenance. This is a motor that we call it our bulletproof 250. I've ridden cross country in 6 days. I've done multiple Saddle Star 1000s. I trust this motor with my life. It's an incredible little engine, super easy to work with. It's got a lot of character. It's kind of like, this is like, heartbeat of Janus are these little 250s. Carbureted, like I say, takes a little bit more involvement than a car engine. And then our 450, which we don't have one here today, comes in through Italy from SWM. It's an SWM update on old Honda design, just like the CG 250 is. When we get these in, there's a lot of prep we do. They're shipped with, a protective oil. We have to drain that. We put our own oil in there, and then we will add ground straps and do any prep work, adding little wiring, new connectors that needs to happen before it goes in the engine. But these are made for us. And then we have some carts here. These are motorcycles that will be being built next week. So we prepare kits for each build. Getting back to
and how many guys assemble the bikes?
We have 4 total guys that can do final assembly. That is one of the longest training processes.
I'm sure.
However, we're starting to break that process down into discrete pieces, both for training and repeatability.
Okay, yeah.
It just shortens like if you had to learn how to build a motorcycle from scratch, it could take 6 months.
Oh, I'm sure.
To really be good at it. Instead, we can do it in 3 months if we break it into chassis to wiring harness, and then wiring harness to finished bike.
So is one person doing the whole thing, or is one person doing a part and the next person doing a part and the next person?
We're moving
is it assembly line, or is it?
Right now, no, it's not an assembly line. It's basically one guy will take a raw frame and build it all the way through. We're moving more toward breaking that down a little more and allowing for a little bit more specialization. But it is probably takes over a year for someone to really be extremely proficient in.
Well, and at that point too, like who built the bike, kind of, right?
Oh yeah,
So
and there's records of exactly who's done it.
Yeah, so like that kind of gives an incentive to actually take your time and do it well.
Oh, and these guys just take incredible amount of pride in every single bike.
Well, and we had, I'm so terrible with names, but we had one guy on the podcast a while ago.
Did you have Kyle?
Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle's awesome, and I also saw him out at the AIM show in California. Yes. That's where I met Doodle. I don't know if she'll remember. Phil talked to her quite a bit, but we were around this fake campfire.
Okay, I think that's where I ran into you there.
I think so too, because I did a little video out there too. Yeah. So, but that whole thing. So, but yeah, he was awesome. But I was talking to him, and like, he was like, I think I built 75 bikes or 80. Like, he was like, it was a crazy amount of motorcycles for the amount of time, especially for one person.
Yeah, and our lead, he's our production and product manager. He's probably built over 1,000 motorcycles.
Wow.
Can you just put that in, like,
yeah.
No, those are multiple models, but he's the guy who's overseeing every one of these guys who are doing final assembly.
And I'm sure he's developed techniques.
The level of understanding and technique that he has, 1,000
That's what I'm saying. So now he's able to train these guys with stuff that he's learned over the last 10 years, so that you're getting all his knowledge in the new guy. That's cool. Right on.
Frame match kits, and then back here, this kind of gets to how we're able to do this. Is we're in Elkhart County, which is the home of the RV capital of the world.
I noticed that coming in, man. When we came in, there are like every 5 minutes there's like 10,000 RVs next to a giant company that makes them, and the anal game still works. You can add anal before any of them. It makes it funny. So I'm just saying. Anyways,
I have some wild names.
Yeah.
But no, we're basically upper Midwest manufacturing central around here.
Yeah.
Actually, the county's motto is well crafted, because that's literally what we do here. Is you cannot go a mile with it running into a machine shop or a powder coater or a laser cutting operation. It's just part of the culture.
So did you know that
we couldn't do this if we
did you know that going into this?
No.
So you had to find that out as you were building the company?
No, we were excited about motorcycles, and then we just kept running. We kept not having problems finding things, and then a couple of years later we're like, wow, we're really lucky.
Yeah. And you start thinking
we couldn't have done this anywhere else.
Yeah, wow. Well, and it seems like you're bringing a bunch of different companies together too. You know what I mean?
That's exactly. It's a great segue to here. Is what allows us to do all this out of a little dry cleaner in downtown is the fact that we're harnessing the power of this county and the surrounding counties. So every day we have we call it our milk run, and we run around the county. It's about a 50-mile loop, picking up and dropping off components from different processes. So there's many different shops that are, whether they're cutting the tube that makes this exhaust. This is the catalyst. This comes from Wisconsin. Whether we're shipping this to them, they're hand forming these exhaust cones, or they're welding it together. Some of those processes happen in different shops. So this is a 250. This is a 450 exhaust. These two will go together. This is in its raw form, and from here it will then go back to another supplier to either be brushed or polished, depending on what the order calls for.
You know what's interesting? It just hits me. So like, not only is your motorcycle like a throwback, but still like like modernly designed, but like your manufacturing process is kind of a throwback, where like it's like the city, all like everybody's in the area, like they used to do. Like this was a common practice back in the day.
The guy who welds these up, this is literally a cottage industry. He does this he's built a pole barn behind his house, and he's a master TIG welder, and that's what he does. He used to work in a factory, doing this, and then we built up enough of an income stream, and a lot of we participated in that process. A lot of the guy who does all of our leather work, when we first started working with him, he just on the side made some harnesses. He's an Amish guy. It's a big business in this county.
Yeah.
And then we started giving him enough business that he gradually started his own. That's all he does now.
That's great.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
that's
really
something
cool.
you can really be proud of.
It is.
And that's a common kind of theme around here is people work in the factory. If they do work in the factory, the goal is that they get out and start some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor on their own, making something.
Yeah. And you kind of facilitated that.
Yep.
That's really
and
cool.
We're participating in it though.
Yeah, right.
We're doing the same thing.
Right.
So we got here's a great look at some cool components. This is a fuel tank. So these are not stamped out. These are handmade out of sheet aluminum and machine components. So you're seeing here, this is a fuel tank with a filler bung. That's a 6061, machined aluminum. And then this is our 450. So this has machined mounts. These fit onto rubber bushings that mount the tank. And you've got your beautiful.
That is substantial.
Look at that machined. This is where your fuel pump goes, fuel level sensor.
Yeah.
And then your breather tube. So there's a lot of engineering that just to make a fuel tank that actually doesn't have vacuum lock. It took us a while to figure that out.
Yeah, dude, I had no idea it was that detailed of a tank.
But this is all hand welded, and then it's pressure tested, and then ground smooth by hand, and then this will go to be powder coated, pinstriped, and then go into final assembly. This is a Griffin 450, our new model.
Wow.
In this next section, we sit down with Richard and we kind of bring up the Doodle situation. I feel he's very transparent and just kind of told us what happened. So let's check it out.
Well, the first thing I saw was I was there
Right.
for the crash.
That's a good point. That's right. There's only two people. There's only two people that really know what happened, and you're one of them.
I was following right behind Carolyn, and that was the first time that she'd gotten on the bike, and we probably had 10 miles maybe. So yeah, like I've ridden a lot of different motorcycles. I've done a lot of group rides. I've done a lot of rides with people I do and don't know, and I've seen bikes go down, and it's not something you want to see.
Never.
I remember watching and thinking, is that a tank slapper?
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it was real obvious what was going on, and then she got thrown off the bike.
Wow.
And just one of those moments where you never want to see that.
Yeah, we had that happen at the DGR. This 78-year-old guy who bought a new bike because he wanted to ride the DGR, was on the ride doing 30 miles an hour, and somehow ended up on the ground. It's in my video. I was like, we helped him get up.
I've seen that happen at DGRs too.
Yeah, it happens, man. It happens, especially with people that haven't been on a bike a lot. You know what I mean? Like a new bike or something. Maybe there's some characteristics that you're not used to.
Or people who have been on lots of bikes.
Right. But it's the thing, each bike's different. Each bike has different characteristics. They're not necessarily bad, but they are different. And so sometimes you need to learn those different characteristics of a motorcycle before you can say, hey, I can really ride this bike.
Yeah, I've led a lot of test rides in my life. Actually, every Discovery Day we do, we've 10 years, we do multiple test rides. We do about a 12-mile loop. It's our test loop.
I was going to say, when you guys went out that day, is that a new route, or is that something that you guys take all the time?
That's a route we take all the time. Okay. I ride that on a variety of motorcycles, mostly on a Halcyon 250, and it's also a ride that we routinely do with our owner's rally. I know I've led 50 or 60 Janus bikes across that bridge all together with a wide range of riders, lightweight, heavyweight.
Right, when Chris said, like, he's like, I've ridden across that bridge on one of the riders meetings a few years ago. Like, he literally knew it from seeing the video. He was like, I've ridden across there, it's a bump.
Yeah, and one of the stories I always tell about kind of describing our motorcycles, when I'm talking to even prospective buyers or anyone who wants to learn about Janus, is that I remember one Discovery Day, we had a classic Harley rider, you know, it's like looked the part, he had the grizzled beard, and he was just like really pumped to be trying these bikes out. And he got on Halcyon 250, and he was riding out of town, and he got like 3 blocks into the ride, and he pulled over. And we have a whole system when we do a test ride where you can know exactly how many lights you're looking for. The second somebody pulls over, you pull to the edge, you know, wait here, go back, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Anything wrong? He's like, there is something wrong with this motorcycle. I was like, oh, okay, why don't you hop on my bike, another Halcyon, and I'll ride this one and make sure it's okay. So I get on it, and there's nothing wrong with the bike. And by the end of the ride, it was just really clear that riding a Harley Davidson is a completely different experience than riding 100%. A lightweight bike. And so since then, the way I describe riding a Janus is like, this is more like riding a bicycle than it is like riding a Harley.
Right.
Keep that in mind.
Right. I was going to say, like, have you ever had a customer come in and be like, listen, I'm deciding between a Panigale V4 and a Halcyon 250. How is the suspension? Is it going to be comparable in the turn and stuff? No, like, you're going into it. When you look at this bike, I'm not thinking high performance. I'm going to hit the turns at 500 miles an hour, do whatever. I'm thinking this is an experience. This is a niche bike. This is like, I've had all the different bikes, and you know what? This is just unique and something different, and that's what I'm looking for. So I think most people buying these bikes going into them kind of know what they're getting into. Like in
Absolutely,
some ways,
and that's one of the things that we really focus on with our marketing and our customer. You know, just if you come and visit, or talk, pretty much everybody, randomly will get an order without talking to them, but almost always there's a personal connection where they've either called in, emailed, and we've addressed them directly, and we've been able to, we make it very clear what we're doing. This is, we call rambling. It's a different kind of motorcycling.
Right, and it's funny that you said that. Like Chris was saying that when he first came out and was looking at bikes, like you guys basically were like, here's the keys, you know, like once you realized he had a motorcycle, you do all the due diligence.
Right.
What's the thing? And you said, here, take it out, and you basically handed him a card and a bike and let him go out and ride, which literally is like you're introducing people to ramble. You're letting them go and ramble, which I thought was kind of cool. But so in regard to everything, so like after all this happened, like, well, the cool part I noticed of another guy, Dan the fireman, he does like the post-crash kind of things.
Analysis.
And he said you guys were on point, like you did the right thing. So that was cool. Like you got up and you could tell that you've been motorcycling long enough that you knew what to do.
The first accident I've been a part of or witnessed.
So what happened afterwards? Like, is the bike, like what is the status of the bike? What's going on? Like,
so we've had 2 crash investigators we've spoken to about it. One through Doodle. So we've been working with Doodle the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I briefly met her in at the AIM show in Las Vegas. Phil had a lot more time, but she's a wonderful person. Because of meeting her there, I followed her channel and I saw
That's the first time I met her too. Was that at AIM this year?
At the AIM show. And like following her journey and stuff, like it was really, she was very honest. She showed like, you know, her inefficiencies at first and then her proficiencies over the years and then the classes and stuff. So this is a person that is not just like a random person that jumped on a bike. You can go and literally watch her progression from nothing to who she is now.
Like, I mean, she probably rides more than a lot of people does.
Probably more,
I mean,
100%.
And does classes and stuff like that. So we're talking about someone who is a proficient rider.
Right.
You know, I think the first thing her kind of question was, well, what do I do? You know, like this is not what we were expecting. How do we? And our take on it is the reason that you're out here to do this is to document your experience. So let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's what.
So
I mean,
you were okay. You were
absolutely.
like, just you post what you need to post.
Yeah. No, you know, we want to make sure that it's factual and represents the reality.
Well, that's why I'm here. Honestly, that's why I'm here. Like, I have no dog in this pony. I don't own a Janus. My friend does, and that's my familiarity with Janus and everything I know about it comes from his enthusiasm of Janus and then sharing it with us on the podcast. So like knowing what I knew about the bikes and actually riding them with Chris and experiencing it and seeing it, like he had a few little like issues here and there, like stupid stuff like a tail light or something like that, and it was fixed quickly and it was done. So I saw a company that was taking care of their customers, etc. And so when I just saw the things like about the front brake not working with that little short, when he's grabbing the front brake and pushing it on an Earl's fork or whatever, I'm like, yeah, dude, that's the way it's supposed. Like if you know anything about these bikes, that's an anti-dive. That's one of the preferable features of this fork setup. So at that point, I was like, well, that's not factual. And I'm afraid that that's going to hurt things. Like when you just come out blatantly say it and this stuff, and people that aren't familiar, I hate to say it, But like, I'm 54 years old. I know what this fork is. I've ridden a BMW that has this fork. If you're 20, you probably have no idea. This looks completely foreign to you.
It looks different.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's just like, why does this exist? What is this? And you have no background information, you might just write it off completely because of that one comment. And that's, I believe it or not, that one comment is what really threw me into a thing, because I know that it's just wrong.
Right.
And I've had people, I'm not right all the time, and so when people have told me I'm wrong and I learn from it, I don't feel bad about it. But this was just so blatant that's what set this whole thing off. So that's why I'm here, is because of this fork. But now, so you,
basically that whole process, one of the things that we're just so pleased with and feel like is truthful is the way that Doodle has represented this whole event.
Right.
Like, you could easily take it in a multitude of different directions, and instead what she's done is taken it, focused on representing what happened, and then like the realities of riding a motorcycle, what it's like to crash,
right.
And then also some educational stuff about what a speed wobble is, what wobble is, how these things can be mitigated.
Right.
So it's something that it's really going to help people that are really interested in motorcycling. So overall, we're just really, we feel like the way that she's handled it is top notch.
Well, and it takes a lot of courage, which a lot of people don't understand. People that just watch YouTube and aren't trying to participate in it, or putting their faces or their integrity and stuff on the internet for people to look at, right? Like, if you would be in her shoes for 1 second, you're with the owners of the company riding a bike and you crash. Like, as much as it's not her fault, I'm not blaming anything like that, but there's a certain amount of courage to kind of own it and be transparent and be about it, because it would be easy to be like, oh, I'm never exposing it, whatever's never happening, just go away.
Yeah, we're just going to not include this part.
Yeah, right. So there is a lot of courage in her to do that with the owner of the company. You know what I mean? Like, right. That's a unique experience. How many people have crashed their new Honda next to, whoever's in charge? Yeah, I don't think you can do that now, but that might be really morbid, actually.
With Janus and with our whole philosophy, the idea of the process being part of that, these motorcycles, you need to accept the fact that the goal of this motorcycle is not to get you from point A to point B in the most efficient manner. Like, that is actually the opposite of what we're trying to do.
Right.
Our goal is to celebrate the process. It's the getting there part.
Right.
Any motorcycle is not the most efficient way of getting from one place to another. Unless you're maybe lane splitting.
Right.
Like you're exposed, there's a higher level of risk, there's just all these different factors. I mean, you can argue that in a lot of different ways, but there's a used Corolla might be the most efficient way for every scenario, but a motorcycle is something that we ride for the experience.
Right.
Like, the best roads on a motorcycle, is it Interstate 80?
No.
I mean, no, even on a big bike, you want a twisty, beautiful road that takes longer to get there.
All right, super huge thanks to Richard and Grant and Kyle and all the guys at Janus that worked there. They were awesome. They really just opened up and told us everything, and I hope you guys learned something from this video. Now, if you don't like Janus, that's cool. I'm not here to try to change your mind. I just wanted to make sure that really good information was out there. Another thing that I guess I didn't even do either, go to their YouTube channel. Janus has 1 million videos up there. It shows a lot of their manufacturing processes. It shows how to maintain the bikes. They do have a lot of information available. And they do have owners forums. And YammieNoob, Richard said, give them a call. They'd like to talk to you, and I'm sure you'll be able to get on that owners forum. All right, guys, this one was definitely cool. It definitely worked. We'll see you on the next one.